the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. I am in the Salty Language Studios, a.k.a. Shameless Plug Studios. Today, Bryan and I are doing the podcast together, which is kind of cool. Hanno is traveling as we speak. Hopefully he's reached his destination of palm trees and wonderfulness, because I believe he's going to Hawaii, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So, very lucky man with a very lovely lady. So, we wish them a wonderful, happy, fun trip.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it should be a good time for them, I'm sure.
I know, right? I'm very jealous. Although I did just come back from traveling myself, I'm still very jealous because I would love to see Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah, the pictures he posted last year were pretty awesome, you know. Like him just floating in, you know, just calm, serene water and
right.
just, you know, everything just, you know, nice and lush around him and whatnot. So it's well-deserved vacation. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
They've been working hard, so now they get to play some hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though it's not really proper English, but whatever. You guys have to forgive me for that. Yeah. For those of you who are new and joining us, my name is Jen. I apologize for the NPR-ish sounding opening. We're a little bit laid back today, I guess. And with me, as always, is Bryan. Hey, Bryan.
Hi.
And as I just mentioned, we have a third mic is not with us today, Hanno, but he will be, if everything goes according to plan, back with us next week. Maybe even from the lovely, lush state of Hawaii. So we'll see if he's not back in the States, continental states by that point.
I was like,
Don't want to take away your statesmanship.
Yeah. Oh.
Hawaii. We love you too, even if you're not attached. Anyways, that can go in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So many different directions. But that being said, Bryan, how has your week been?
It's been pretty uneventful until today.
Right? You had a busy day today.
Yeah. It was something, that's for sure. Me and Jeannie, a friend of ours, or Tony from Salty Language, if you know him, it's his wife. We got their car broke down or not broke down, but it overheated, and her and I were kind of stuck for a while today. So that was a good time. But whatever. We just shot the breeze in the meantime. So that was cool, and just talked about whatever. And I finally got to go back to therapy this week after a good almost month and a half, which was awesome because I needed it.
I bet. I can only imagine.
This is the first time that I've had any real break in it since starting it. And again, I haven't gone a lot, but it's still, I realized in having that time off how much it is, how much it means to me right now.
Which is awesome that it's helped you to appreciate what you are doing.
Yeah. And, she kind of gave me a challenge of, part of trying to change depression is changing your mindset. How when you catch yourself, or even anxiety, it works, similarly. And that, like, if it's you try to talk yourself out of doing something, it's like if you can, you stop and ask yourself, am I processing this correctly? Like, is this the truth? That's where, as we talked before about the distorted thinking comes
Sure.
in. And you stop and say, am I looking at this? Am I looking at facts, or am I looking at what I've made up? You know, because as I told her, I said, what I'm finding is that depression for me is like walking around the world with like funny glasses on, like glasses that distort your vision, you know?
Sure, yeah.
And you can see things and you look at someone and go, that's not what they look like, but that's what your eyes are telling you. And it's basically the same idea, you know, is your view is so distorted that you believe it. And then you react accordingly, and, you know, that's no good. It's like flying off the handle when somebody tells you somebody else said something about you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you may not be acting on the truth. You might just be acting on a distorted version of the truth. And so she challenged me to, when I recognize that I'm doing this, to stop and try to sit down and go, basically, you know, like if it's about going somewhere, well, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, will I still be alive? Will I still be able to breathe? Well, you know, those kind of things. Well, yes. Okay. Well, now let's look at the next step and kind of break that down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because I know it's a lot of it's about retraining your brain, you
Absolutely.
know, but it's so, it feels so, I don't want to say condescending, because she's not in any way, but you know what I mean?
It's
like,
so simple that why is this such an aha moment? Because it's so simple.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, it's like walking yourself through something, like whatever, just picture anything you do. You know, it'd be like, oh, I'm going to have a drink of water, you know, pick up the water, unscrew the bottle cap,
Yep.
tip the bottle towards your mouth, you know, or at your mouth, you know, and then, you know, pour, swallow. Like, you have to, like, seriously go through, like, every step to where it's like, I shouldn't have to do this, but you do, because you have to, because at some point your brain takes a fork, you know, and goes the wrong way, and you have to go, no, wait, stay over here, and, you know, so.
You absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a very, very small analogy you can make is like if you bite the side of your cheek and you have to chew on only the one side of your mouth. You know, it's something so simple. It's like it's chewing.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows how to chew. It's
Right.
just, well, unless you're a baby, but
Clearly you don't, though, because
Yeah.
you bit the inside of your
Exactly.
mouth. Yeah,
obviously you have some learning to do.
right.
But then trying to chew on the other side of your mouth, how often if you're not concentrating, then you're just going to go right back to the same way
Yeah.
you've always chewed, and pretty soon you're going to chew on the side of your cheek again.
Right, because
it's swollen.
It's swollen, exactly. Yeah, it's why I said it's you know, and you know, we got into that a little bit, and again, you know, I never give full everything that I talk about, because you shouldn't. You know, there should be stuff that you keep there and stuff, but you know, one of the things that I'll share here is that we talked about my art for a while, and we kind of started getting into that, and I think that's something that her and I are going to spend a lot of time talking about, is why I can't seem to produce art anymore. And, you know, and then after that, you know, she was like, well, she's like, okay, well, you were passionate about art. Well, what are you passionate about now? And I was like, nothing. Like, really, I love doing podcasting, but if I couldn't tomorrow, I'd be like, well, all right, you know.
Yeah.
And I told her, you know, I made that comment. I was like, I have no passion for life anymore. Like, there's nothing that I'm like, ooh, and get super excited. Like, there's just really not much that does that for me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and that became a point that she made a note of, because we're going to talk about kind of how did that happen and whatnot. But just to say the words, I don't have a passion for living anymore, or for life anymore. It was amazing how much of a burden that felt like, getting off of my shoulders.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean,
You know?
that's a huge statement.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like, it's not the first time I've said it,
Yeah.
but I don't know why it felt so much better to say it in that setting.
It's because you're
You
doing
know?
something about it. You're not just saying it, you're actually taking action upon it.
Yeah, it was just something, because I no more than said it. You know, and she was basically like, yeah, that's what happens when you go untreated for depression for a long time.
Wow.
Is you just become more and more indifferent and reserved, and that is exactly what I've become.
Yeah.
I am numb to a lot of things, and it sucks. That's why I've pointed out plenty of times on here, if you ever see somebody like, oh, I wish I didn't feel and blah, blah, and all the feels and all, it's like, no, really, you don't want that.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's not what you think it is. Being invulnerable to pain is not the same as being indifferent to pain. What you want to be is invulnerable to pain, to where you just deflect it. You're like, whatever, I got this. What happens with me is when something should hurt or whatever, I'm just like, okay. And there's just nothing. And a lot of times people kind of reciprocate, emotions from others, and I just don't give you anything. I'm just, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that doesn't help sometimes. And
it's tough. It is. It is very, very tough finding the balance. Especially when you're dealing with mental illness like depression or even anxiety. And we talk a lot about how isolating it can be. And the danger is that you lose empathy and you lose sympathy. And they're very, very important. They're important for you as well as for the other people in conversations and relationships that you're building. It just makes things very difficult. I would never want to be without any of the emotions because, quite frankly, there's a reason for them, and they build upon things, and they make a colorful tapestry of life. And
the thing was, like, when I was talking to her, it reminded me of what's it? The one 9 Inch Nails song. I can't think of the name of it now. It's the one where I can't remember, I'm probably going to get the lyric a little off, but it's like, I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. Like, that really is what it becomes. And like I told her, I was like, it isn't that I hurt myself. I don't do any self-harm stuff as far as, like cutting or none of that kind of thing. But my brain processes a lot of dark and hurtful things. And basically when I get sad or hurt by something in my own head, basically, it's like, okay, well, they're still feeling there. That's good. Kind of a thing. It's almost like, you're feeling for a pulse and you get that real faint pulse and you're like, okay, that's better than zero, but it's still not good, but it's, that's kind of where I feel it is. And it's, going in and getting therapy, and whether it's embracing medicines and whatnot, getting help is you trying to make sure that heartbeat doesn't flatline, that's the thing is, hopefully, people catch it soon enough. That's, and that's the problem, is the closer you are to that flat line, the longer and harder the road is going to be,
Yeah.
Because I know some people who've been dealing with depression for a few years, and man, I see them and I'm like, wow, that was me in high school. That was me at this point, know. And that's why, it's so important to talk about this with people. Like, talk about if you see people and know that they're struggling through this. I actually posted a thing on my Facebook the other day that was like things you can do to help people with depression, I believe it was. And I loved the fact that one of them is one of the things I've kind of said on here, basically. And I think it was, I don't remember if it was just me and Heno or it was one Heno was part of. But it was where I made the comment about, it's kind of like sometimes if people don't ask you for help, sometimes you shouldn't offer, or advice, I mean, not help. But, it's like, if you sit down, listen, did the person ask you for advice? If they didn't, don't offer advice, kind of a thing. Like, not always, but just sometimes people are in a moment, basically. They're in a funk, and it isn't about getting you the long-term help and all. It's helping you through right now.
Right.
Because I saw something once before that made a comment. A woman said, depression took me from living my life one day at a time to living 5 minutes at a time. And I was like, that is so true, because it's like, if I can just get through what's directly in front of me, I can get through the next. You have to, it is one step at a time, whether you want to see that as an hour, a minute, a day, however you want to, change that. And I can't remember, there was another tip on there that I thought was so good, and I can't remember what it is, but I'll try to find the link and post it on our Twitter if people want to read it. But all the tips on it are from people with, or no, I think that article's not, I'm sorry. But it's written by somebody with, depression and stuff. And because it is, you know what it is? The first part is getting you in the right position to help, I think it is. And it's kind of like, it runs through a scenario. It's like, you know how when you have this, and it just kind of piles and piles and piles.
Right. And
it's like, okay, now you're close. Like, this is their everyday thing. This is what they're going through kind of right now. Now you're closer to ready to, and it's so true. And that's why being a friend to somebody with this is so hard.
Absolutely.
Because it is seriously a thankless job, and it's very difficult. And most people who have a good support system, if they recognize it and such, are incredibly thankful for those people,
Right.
So, yeah, anyway, that was my long-winded run on that.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It actually even ties in a little bit to a topic that we're going to be talking about shortly. But real quick, just to kind of recap my week, I'm back to work. Yay. Came back from my vacation. Obviously, we talked about that last week. I got incredibly sick when I came back from my vacation because I went and I found a chapel for my wedding, which is awesome. They also decided we concluded that it would be best to have 2 bridal showers in the same weekend, which has me filled with trepidation and in excitement because it's a wonderfully fun time, obviously, but I'm also very well aware that this is going to be incredibly difficult on my anxiety.
Yeah.
And going into it, it's like we've talked about before, it's almost like prepping for a night of drinking. I'm going to be prepping for a weekend of overexertion of my emotions.
Right.
And my mom, asked me if I was going to be okay, and I said, yeah. She's like, well, it shouldn't be too bad. It's just a couple, and the people are really nice. And I'm like, Mom, it has nothing to do with the people.
Right.
I said, everybody's wonderful. I mean, I'm not saying that anything. It's not them. It's me.
Yeah.
And I said, it's difficult to understand because, yes, people get overwhelmed, and yes, you can empathize with some of the things that go through my head, and you can empathize with some of the positions that you've been in before, so you can see the correlations. But you're never going to understand 100% because you're not in my head.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I don't
Right.
expect you to, and you shouldn't expect yourself to be able to completely understand.
Yeah.
I said, but I'm just going to have to be very careful. And I ended up going to the doctor yesterday, which was really cool because I adore my doctor. I've been one of the best doctors in the world. And she's very thoughtful and listens, and she reads up the charts before I get into the room so that she knows what she's talking about when she sees me.
Yeah.
Calls me the right name, remembers things about me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of half joking because I have a feeling that she honestly knows me.
Yeah.
That it's not just her reading a chart and making sure that she catches up on the cliff notes before jumping in.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure she does too, but...
You know what, though? When I was seeing her, there were times where she would walk in and she had the notes in her hand, and she hadn't
even looked at
him yet, and we started talking, and she was pulling stuff. So I just think she's one of those that can remember things about people. Like, she kind of, maybe it's once you jog her mind a little bit, she's got, those kind of compartments in her brain that she remembers stuff. But,
she's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's much better than getting a prescription from a doctor who didn't look at your chart.
Exactly.
That could mess with you health-wise, yeah.
But that was cool. So I got a chance to talk with her and about different things, and she asked me how I was doing, and I said good, and we talked a little bit about the wedding planning and different steps and techniques and stuff that I'm going to be using. And I've got to actually make an appointment with my psychiatrist because I'm going to do the same thing with him. And I'm trying to be as thoughtful and cognizant and making sure I get as many tools and tips and tricks that I need to make sure that this entire time, this entire year is a joyous and wonderful thing for me. And I really, really, really don't want to have the negativity of the downside of depressions and anxiety and bipolar affect it.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to have to remember having a breakdown. I want to have to remember having an amazing time. Right. Not the guilt I give myself after the fact because I get too high.
Right.
Or, I get too low. Or I don't say the right things. So it's been a lot on my mind around all of that this last week. But, since we're talking weeks, what was your win?
Oh, boy. I don't know.
There's a high point.
Honestly, the high point of my week to this point has probably been, hanging out with Jeannie and T today. But I can't think of like a mental health. Like I can't think of where I caught something or.
It doesn't have to be a mental health thing. It doesn't have to be a high.
Well, I know, but I always try to pick things that are what I feel like progress in that department because of what we're trying to do here. So I try to look for things where I've changed my behaviors or something a little bit. And I don't know. The only thing I can think of is, again, just continuing to push myself in therapy and not wall off anything.
That's a big win.
If we start talking about something and we just go into it, She asked me this week if I ever took the time to fully process my dad's death. And my answer to her was, I don't know, because there's no appropriate scale. Like, I can't tell you if I did, because what do I measure it against? Do I measure it against this person or this? But, well, each person deals differently, so I don't know if I truly have. Kind of a thing. And
yep,
and
I know that. I know that way of thinking.
Yeah, and she's like, "Yeah, I understand that." It's like, it's like I think I did, but I don't know. Did I? Maybe I didn't. So yeah, it's what I'm finding is, even though I'm into it weeks and weeks now, at this point, I kind of feel like I'm still giving us topics for down the road.
Sure.
It's funny how but that's what it is. As we talk, you discover things, you work on those things to try to change, So I think that's probably what it is like I said, I just keep pushing because I want, I want to find the pulse. I don't want that to fade more,
Right.
I don't want this anymore.
Well, you're opting in, which is a lot to be said. You have not opted in on life in a long time.
No.
And you're choosing to opt in on life, which is huge.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to. I don't know if I'm still actually opting in, but I'm trying.
It is opting in. Opting in is trying. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole key.
Right.
Without try, there's no succeed.
Yeah.
And all that good wisdom crap that we got from Star Trek and Star Wars.
Homer Simpson says
Homer.
Like what is it? The first step to failure is trying, or something like that.
That's true. Yeah. Very true indeed. I would say my win this week has been doing the laundry. Now, it seems very banal, but did I say that right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. But you're not wrong.
Yeah,
because you have pointed out before that was a problem.
Laundry is a huge issue with me, and it's not just I don't know why. I don't have a problem putting it in the washer, getting out of the washer, and even folding it. I can handle. I cannot handle putting it away, and it is still not put away. But I have made strides, and everything's clean and everything's folded. So I'm getting closer, and I think that's a big win for me. Is to really I'm trying to work on this. I'm trying to do my dishes every night. So it's not piling up and making these big piles.
Right.
My fiance's giving me a lot of positive feedback around these issues, which is really awesome to hear. So it's it's taking me some time, and it's still going to be a work in progress, and I'm going to slide back, and I know I will, into bad behaviors. But this week was a good one, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to say that was my win. Nice. Yep. And then if next week's not the same win, that's okay, too.
Right. And I think we can, point out what Heno's win for this week is, which is, he gets to go to Hawaii.
He's in Hawaii.
I think he just wins the week. I don't.
Yeah, it's like whatevs. Anyways, so the topic of this week, and we kind of touched on a couple points already, but the topic this week is one that Heno submitted to us before he left, which I think is an amazing one, which is, what are the top positive things that have come out of this podcast? Or positive...
It's kind of like, what positive changes have you made
positive
since?
Changes, yeah.
Which, it was funny because when we talked about what to, topic for this week, and that came up, it's so, it's so appropriate because, the first thing that popped into my head was Changes, the Bowie song. And, with Bowie dying this week, it all kind of tied into,
R.I.P.
Yeah, it was, but it's true. And, it is interesting how, we started this, and I tried to make changes because I realized that a lot of the, this show is driven by us.
Yes.
It's driven by what we do and what we're trying to, the journeys we're trying to make. So in order for there to be any content realistically, you have to do something.
We have to generate it.
Yeah. And I was anyway. This came along at like the time where I was finally kind of kicking things into, getting the different help. Because it wasn't, it hasn't been that long ago that I started therapy. Mm-hmm. And just, honestly, I mean, if that's the biggest or the first thing for me is starting therapy. Because I've thought for a long time that it would be really beneficial to me, and I just kept putting it off. For the same reason that I put off getting help originally for depression. Mm-hmm. Because, no one wants to go see a shrink or whatever, and I'll be honest, the 45 minutes that I get in there is the most liberating time of any day that I get.
That's wonderful.
Because, again, I can say pretty much anything in there, how I feel, and I don't have to worry about anything else. It's a safe zone. I can just say it,
Judgment free is an amazing place.
It is. And it's like I said, no matter how free you think you are with your spouse, your best friend, your family, whatever, it's not the same. Mm-hmm. There's a whole different, because all of those people, you generally still don't want to make them upset. You don't want to offend them. You don't want to hurt them. The therapist is there for you to just say what you need to say, and then for them to react to what you... what you've said to him.
Say a song pop in my head.
Yeah, I know, me too. That happens all the time. That's too. Why on like Salty Language, Tony does it all the time. Stuff pops in my head all the time too, and usually I don't make the references like he does, but that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely derail us, but I'm sorry about that, but... Yeah.
Yeah, like if I was doing sound drops and stuff for the show, I certainly would put the Bowie thing in there, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And for you folks out there who don't know what song we're talking about, as far as he just said, say what you need to say, and all I can think of is the most popular song, one of the popular songs on radio right now, the say what you need to say, say what you need to say.
I can't tell you the song, it's just got that in it. That's all I can tell you. So,
Yeah, so that's completely popping in my head.
Yeah.
So now it's in your head too. Enjoy.
Well, maybe.
Maybe not.
So what about you? What's your first one or biggest one? However you want to categorize.
I think the biggest one is the podcast has really helped me become a lot more confident and a lot more just okay with my ups and downs.
Yeah.
I'm not as judgmental on myself as I had been in the past. Again, kind of like with you, it's like a path that I was already starting to travel, But I think the podcast really sped things up for me, and it's also given me a lot of just confidence in who I am and being okay with everything. I'm going to make mistakes. There is no litmus test for Jen in saying, what's good, what's bad, what's this or that. There is not. There's no testing. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
It just is. And that's great in what it is. And it's tough to say and it's tough to own it. But the podcast has definitely been helping me with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can say that. Yeah, I can see that. It makes sense. I've been pretty open about talking about this since before we did this show. I talked about it on Salty Language. I brought things up occasionally on there. But hearing Tony on another show actually mention that us doing the show, he gets to hear a side of me he doesn't know.
Wow.
And, that this is my best friend. But him and I, we don't do a lot of the stuff that's like the down stuff. When I'm with him, I want to have fun. He's your escape. Yes. So I'm like, I don't want any of this other stuff. So I don't focus on it. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to have fun. And that's what we do. But it's like, he gets to see inside some of this stuff that, I've told, he knows about it. It's not like it's a secret, but he just gets to see kind of a little more of how my brain works.
Sure.
With this show.
I can see that being very fascinating and very, informative on his aspect and understanding you and understanding what makes you tick.
Right. So even though I've been open about it and willing to talk about it, if anyone asks me, like I said, I've talked to various people on Twitter about, and not giving advice or, anything along other than go get help or don't go off your medicine without your doctor, those kind of things. And, but that it's definitely done that for me, which is, I've been more confident. And I'd say that kind of playing off of that is not only have I become more confident in talking about it, I've become more vocal about it as well.
Me too.
I've been retweeting and posting stuff on Facebook and my Twitter that every time I stumble across something that I think might help somebody understand a little better, or sometimes it's not just about making people without mental illness understand mental illness. It's also about having people with mental illness understand mental illness. Because sometimes you don't understand it because you don't realize you have a mental illness kind of a thing. You refuse to accept it, and then you start reading a list of things. Hey, I did this, I went through this, blah, and you're like, wow, I do that every day. That's kind of how I fell into it more and more, was I started finding, wow, these people have it. This is, wow, I do the same thing kind of a thing. And then it made it easier to accept, which then it made it easier for me to go to the doctor, at that kind of a thing. So if I can help someone speed up the process of recognizing it,
absolutely.
So that would be one of my other things. I've certainly become more vocal about it. And as kind of a slight segue on that, I've also become more adamant about defending it.
Me too.
And that when someone tries to give me guff about it that I used to just let roll off, I don't as much now, and be like, this is no different than if I had a broken leg and you wanted me to go skiing.
Right.
If I can't, I can't. That's the rule kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you bully me into things anymore.
You going to hand a diabetic a candy bar?
Yes.
I don't think so. It's so understand, I know my limits better than anyone else. And that's something that I don't think... everyone's very good-natured and good-intentioned.
Yeah.
And, I love my mother, obviously. She's probably one of the most important women in my life, and I absolutely adore her. But I know she struggles with understanding.
Yeah.
And because in her mind, she can't see the disease. She only sees her daughter, which I love her for. The fact that she just sees me as me and accepts me and loves me as me,
right,
and doesn't understand that part of me as, the disease is part of me and part of me is the disease. And it's so difficult because, yes, you can't divorce them of each other.
Right.
You can't pull them apart. But there is aspects to it that, it's so hard to explain.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, I don't want someone to make up cute terms for what I have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want someone to go, oh, that's just, Jen's just having one of her episodes or whatever.
Exactly.
It's like, no, I'm having a bout of mania.
Yeah.
Like, let's not sugarcoat this. Let's not call it cute names, because when we do, what we end up doing is we take away from it. Like the seriousness of it. Again, you wouldn't see somebody have a seizure and go, oh, they're just doing their thing again. You'd be like, they're having a seizure, or a convulsion. They're in convulsions, like you don't, like, it's the same idea is if you're having a bout of mania or depression or whatever is, I don't want you to cute it away.
Don't dismiss it.
Yes. And I'm not saying your mom did
no,
that. I'm just saying,
I
but
appreciate
a
that,
lot of people, even trying to be helpful or whatever, they just be like, oh, this happens, and they kind of just they try to make it seem like it's okay, but they don't realize that they're actually being dismissive and minimizing your condition.
Exactly.
And again, I'm not saying that everyone who does that does those kind of things is bad. I'm not in any way implying that. It's just, this is such a two-way street. As much as I want other people to understand me, I have also tried over the last year to understand them and where their mindset is and try to help them get where I need them to be, because I know that's what they want to do.
Yes.
I know they want to be on the same side of the street as me, so I'm trying to figure out ways to help them help me, basically, Well,
I call them my support team, and I draft people into my support team.
Yeah.
And especially, during the wedding stuff, which I'm sure everyone's going to get tired of hearing if they haven't already about wedding. But I'm bringing people in on my support team. I'm giving them instructions. I'm letting them know what's going to happen and what I'm going to need from them, and so that they understand. They are extremely excited to be able to be of help.
Yeah.
And, and they love...
yeah, because nobody wants you to have a bad day on your wedding.
Right.
No one, ever.
Exactly.
That is no one's goal.
Exactly.
Well, I shouldn't say no one. There, there may be somebody out there twisting their mustache, but I you know what I mean? Like, outside of, like, some cartoon villain, generally people are not looking to make your day a bad day.
And they're there to want to help. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Here's how you can help me. And and same thing with disease. It doesn't even have to be around the wedding. If they love you to the point of wanting to help you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't give them, if you're not vocal and can't share what they can do to help you, and like you said, that whole two-way street.
Yeah. Well, like Heno said a long time ago. Remember when Heno said, when the rules change, you have to let everybody know what the new rules are.
Exactly.
So everybody can play on the new rules, kind of a thing. And it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Like with you, with this, the wedding, even though it's a good thing and whatnot, your stress level ups. And along with your stress comes anxiety and this is
emotion like crazy.
Right. And, these are all things you have to process. And, with having bipolar, and anxiety, you're going to process, you may process them differently than person A, B, or C.
Exactly.
So, like you said, so you have to make people aware of those things, like, hey, I may need this, but, again, as long as you're not like foaming at the mouth and screaming while you're doing it, it's probably going to be pretty well received.
Yeah, it should be good to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think you're 100% right. That's another huge thing that came out of this podcast is I'm much more vocal with people about I'm less isolated. I'm less in my head trying to say, come on, girl, you got to control this, you got to control this, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to make sure you use your tools. And I'm all up in my own head and like trying to, trying to figure this out and going, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Now it's like, no. Instead of doing that way, going, okay, guys, guess what? All right, I'm having a little bit of an off day. This and this and this might happen. If it does, don't worry about it. It's just me having an off day, whatever. All right, cool. We all on the same page. All right, great. Let's go party. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden things have gotten so much easier, and it makes life so much better.
Yeah.
I think easier not just for me, but for them as well.
Yeah.
Because it brings them into what's going on. So instead of me
Right.
being in my own little world, isolated, and them not understanding what's going on with me, all of a sudden we're as a big team and we're working together to
Yeah.
kind of make things happen.
Yeah.
And all of that has been a very, very direct correlation to having this podcast and talking it out and really exploring things and seeing things from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was a huge one for
Yeah.
me.
Do you know, I think another one, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this one, is the phrase, like, or the idea that unbalanced is okay.
Yeah, that was.
And I don't. If you want to talk
one.
chemically, if you want to talk that you're, like a mania kind of thing, any of it, it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter what the
Right.
whatever throws you out of balance is okay, because the world isn't going to end. And even though it's a daily fight for me with that kind of mentality, that everything isn't like the end of the world kind of a thing or
Right.
whatever. Just accepting that every day we try to get balance. We try to stay balanced. But there are just going to be days you're not going to be balanced. You're going to have better days than worse days. Everybody knows that. And the difference with this is most people take their bad days, whatever, and it rolls off the next day.
Yeah.
Where they kind of just go back to it and whatever. And with us, or with me at least, I don't want to talk for you, but one bad day can turn into a bad week, can turn into 2 bad weeks.
Absolutely.
It's so easy. And there's just times where now I'm finding myself a little bit more, not a lot, but a little bit more, to where I'm starting to go, oh, well, I'm still breathing.
Yep, I can move forward and I can get past it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Before, I used to really kill myself over stuff, and I would just beat the living daylights out of my own self in
Yeah.
my own head. I'd make a mistake, and it was just destroy.
Yeah.
And now I've got a much healthier look at things. And even from last September, like September 12th, when I got engaged, one of the things I said when I was all excited and stuff right afterwards is, I don't know if I'm overreacting, underreacting, or reacting just enough.
Right.
And people around me, they're all, hugging me and all happy and everything. And they're like, you're acting just right because you're having your own reaction. There is no appropriate reaction for the most part. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, it'd be different if like you were running around the room hollering and throwing stuff.
Right.
You
They're
know,
like,
it's like, all right, calm it down a little bit,
Right.
But,
They're like, no, you're just right in that idea of, it doesn't matter if I don't act perfectly, if I don't do exactly what everyone expects me to do, that's okay, because I'm doing I'm doing a Jen, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. It's kind of fit into that episode we did about normal, like how there is no normal. Like there just isn't.
It doesn't exist.
Like you can, and striving for normal is no different than striving for perfection. There's zero difference in the two. And don't get me wrong, there is an element of normality, or, you're striving for certain things. And it's a tough one to full on say there is no normal, because,
I think it's more everyone's normal is different.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's more, it's like there's no litness of normal.
Yeah.
It's everyone's normal's a little different. They can look very, very similar.
Yeah.
They could be almost identical. But everyone has their own little tweak on it.
It's even tough, though, because, even though people are creatures of habit, we change. Our opinions change.
Yes.
Our feelings change. All that kind, and
our
it's
normal changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A month from now, I may not be the same person I am today, and well, I mean,
you won't be.
We can almost guarantee it, because with mental illness, you probably won't be the same person,
I think it's even safe to say that even without mental illness, everyone learns and grows, and that's why whenever I always thought the word hypocritical, no. Hypocrisy.
Well, it's the same
Okay.
concept, yeah.
if you are, if people call you a hypocrite, it always struck me as very funny and very odd that a human could be a hypocrite, because when you're always learning and growing, and I guess as long as you don't flip-flop back and forth, and even then, if you can, everyone learns something new and something different, and I may have one opinion, then I learned something else, and all of a sudden my opinion changes.
Yeah.
Why does that make me hypocritical?
Politics ruined the word hypocrite.
Yes.
And the reason
it did.
is because now anyone thinks, oh, you've changed your mind, you're a hypocrite. And they don't understand that a hypocrite is that you say one thing and do another. It isn't that it isn't so much that you say one thing and then say the other. That's maybe it's a little bit, but it's mostly more of a it's more of a do as I say, not as I do concept. You know what I mean? Like, you tell people, oh, I believe in equality, and then you kick someone out of your restaurant for being a minority. It's like, hypocrite much? It's like those kind of things. Or, like, I believe that, people should dress more modestly as you're wearing, like, a super mini skirt or something. That's generally that your actions and your words don't line up. But politics, politics have ruined a lot of that. Or not people's politics, politicians have ruined that because they use the word hypocrite as a bullet at the other party all the time. And like you said, like there's a lot of times in politics. Now, if it's within a matter of months in politics, they're probably right that you're doing it just for whatever. But it's like if you had something from like 10 years ago and then you say something different now, it's like, really? When you were 10, you had the same thought you had when you were 20? Or when you were 30 or 40, like, come on now. Like, there's some room for change there. But if it's something that, like, 2 days ago I said one thing and then today I'm telling you this, it's like, yeah, that's probably just you pandering to whoever you're talking to, Yeah,
unless there's something specific that you can kind of even say. You're like, I know I said this, but I just learned X.
Yeah,
so
I had
all of a sudden, that changes things.
Yeah, new information was presented or whatever. Right. Sure, yeah, that can happen. But anyway, so what's the
next one?
Yeah, if you got more, or if you don't, that's fine too.
I know. So I was just thinking. Well, the next one for me, I think, is is increased commitment. Because having this once a week, it's been really a struggle for me. But I think it's been really, really beneficial and a good thing for me to keep the structure of having the podcast once a week. I sit down, I assess things, I analyze things, I take a look at my life and look at stuff. I think that's really been very, very good for me to really look on things and think about them, not just move through the motions. Yeah. It is similar to kind of like stepping on a scale once a week. Yeah. And just going, okay, this is where I'm at. All right. This is where I'm at. Okay, yeah. And, not putting too much weight on any one thing that you find, but it's just that you need to look at, like you said, you need to glance backwards. Yes. At times, just to make sure you're moving forward, that you're moving the right way. Yeah. That, like, okay, am I setting things in motion the way I want to set them in motion, or am I, just going through, doing things? I don't. But yeah, I agree with you. Like I always, it was the reason. One of the reasons I was so into doing Salty Language was that once a week thing forced me to be responsible for that once a week. It's like, that's got to go up. That's got to go, we have to do the show. It's got to go up, kind of a thing. And same with this one. And, it's, it becomes important to you. Like, you don't want to miss it because you never know in podcasting how many actual listeners you have. Right. And it's not about that so much for us, but it's the idea that, like this, it's like, there may be one person that listens each week and it really, really helps them. Right. And if so, I don't want to miss that. I don't want to make them wait, or I don't want them to miss that that they want or need. Because I know what it's like. There's podcasts that, even if they're comedy ones, you're just like, yeah, there's a new one in my list, kind of a thing. So it's,
whatever it is, whether it's something we say helps you or, you know, you're entertained or whatever by it, then that's cool too. You know, it's just, you know, I'm like you said, I just, it helps, you know, to have that look back, and we're putting out something moving forward, and it's kind of a way of documenting it too. If like at any point you wanted to go back and listen to yourself and kind of see where you were a year ago,
right?
You can do that, or well, not yet, but you know what I mean. Like
yeah. I know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So how about you? Do you get any more?
I think I'm doing more reading and looking for this kind of stuff now. Like, I'm more aware of mental health stuff. Like, I look for it in people at times. And again, I'm not diagnosing, but
right.
I look for signs. I try to look for the warning signs that, like, ways that I used to hide it.
Gotcha.
Like that kind of thing. I'm looking for that, as well as I'm looking, like, you know, as I'm reading stuff online, I've added to the stuff that I read, I've added a variety of mental health pages and sections to try to read stuff to see kind of what's going on, and just to see, like, some of the stuff we've talked about in different episodes of this have come from that.
Sure.
You know, and it isn't just about, like, doing homework for the show. It's like I'm actually reading, I'm doing this stuff to kind of help. Like, to, you know, if I find a good article, I want to pass it along to people so that they can find it, and, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, that would be my next one.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think those are the top ones for me.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other big
I'm sure
ones.
there's more, but it's
there's so much more, I'm sure. You're right. But that's about all I can think of. So unless you have any more?
No, I don't. I can't think of any, especially since we just kind of decided to go with this topic right before we started. You know, it's like if we had a week, I could probably sit down and write 10 or something we could have went down, but
you're not supposed to pull the curtain back.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Why? I do it all the time. We got nothing to hide.
Nope, we got nothing to hide, that's for sure.
And this was always proof about the podcast I do, because, you know, there's minimal editing on any of them, so.
Exactly. Well, I guess with that, share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to continue the conversation with me, you can reach me at Jen's Crazy Life on Twitter. Almost forgot.
Really quick, that's Jen with a G.
Oh my gosh, I completely forget to even mention that to people.
I know. We mentioned it at one point on the show, and neither one of us point that out each week, but you really should.
I really should. I apologize, folks. Yeah. Yes, it's Jen with a G. So Jen's Crazy Life with a G. And if you want to email us, you can send it to, or you can, send an email. Sorry, folks. I'm getting tired, obviously. My brain's stopping to work. The Crazy Life Podcast at Outlook.com. You can also visit our website at thecrazylife.weebly.com. And Brian, if they want to reach you?
You can reach me on Twitter at Stunami. The one where I post, like, when new episodes go up for the show is Crazy Life Pod. And Heno did our intro song, and you can find him on Twitter at Ida Heno. Or if you're on SoundCloud, you can look him up under Monkey Tongue Productions and listen to some of the other podcast intros he's done. Man, I'm using too many uhs tonight.
This is not our 100% game, folks. No. Sorry.
You can also, we're part of the Tangent Bound Network and the Wicked Radio Network. So please, give them a look and check out all the other shows that are on there, because there's plenty of good shows on both networks. A lot of shows that are crossover ones, but, that's fine too. And as always, I will then remind you that we're not therapists, doctors, trained professionals of any kind. If you think you need help, please go get help. Do not, don't self-diagnose. Like, if you want to look stuff up on WebMD or whatever, that's fine. But don't treat yourself, don't diagnose and then start trying to treat yourself. Go to a professional and get their help and get a course of action. It'll be way more effective, and you also make sure that you're, try not to do yourself any harm that way.
Absolutely.
Again, if money's an issue, check out your Department of Human Services or your Board of Mental Health. A lot of times there's programs in place to get you into therapy sessions or support groups or different stuff. Or check your local libraries. A lot of libraries have support groups, and churches do too, and different stuff, community centers, whatever. And then the last thing, of course, is if you're in any way suicidal, please do not act on that. Just please call the suicide hotline number. Or if you have a support, someone in a support system, call them. And, if you need to, have them take you to a hospital, or just call 911 and tell them you're having a mental emergency, and they should be able to help you. But please don't act on it. Just don't do that if you can help it.
Bad idea. As I've said, and I'll keep on saying, if you stop to think about it, you can stop and make the choice not to do it. So, with that, everybody, keep breathing. We'd love having you aboard the ship with us, and we'd love to hear from you. So, talk to you later.